Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Joe Citizen Show. This is Roger Homefield. I am Joe Citizen, but so are you and everybody out there. We're going to need every Joe Citizen there is if we're going to get America back on her feet again. The war in Israel between Hamas and Israel will be over by now had the United States not stepped in it and meddled in a very, very bad way for someone that's supposed to be your best ally. If Schumer hadn't have entered stage left with this shocking demand that Israel has a special election so that they could get rid of Netanyahu, this war would be over by now had we maintained our support as we promised Israel we would. And now what's happened is our policy with Israel is it's really nothing less than schizophrenic. We tell Israel our support is ironclad. And then the very next thing we do is withhold her weapons shipment. They were careful not to let that out of the bag until after the speech at the Museum Holocaust. Pretty sickening. So we're ironclad, but you don't get any weapons now. And then we tell Israel that we will give her intelligence which she should have already had, as long as she doesn't use the intelligence like going into Rafah to finish the war. Now, wait a minute. So in other words, we had intelligence that we were sitting on that might have led Israel to the hostages, American and Israeli, but we're sitting on that and we'll share that information with them as long as they don't go into Rafah. So in other words, folks, we have withheld both ammo and info. It's just shocking, to say the least. Let's go in a time machine, shall we, for the moment, and go back in time, back to the Arab Spring, when Obama single-handedly resuscitated the Muslim Brotherhood, and he was the only man in the world who could have done so. Now, I've got a standing $1,000 bet to anybody that can prove that statement wrong. I've been saying that a long time. Obama single-handedly resurrected the Muslim Brotherhood and was the only man in the world who could have done so. And in case you don't know, the Muslim Brotherhood, it's not a soccer team. The Muslim Brotherhood was created to spread Sharia law, to foment jihad. They're self-avowed enemies of the United States, and they predict that they will defeat us by having the evil house, that's us, crumble from within. They seem to kind of be on target so far. They must be stopped, but we have to wake up if we have any chance of stopping them. So Obama single-handedly resurrected the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, was the only man in the world that could have done so. And now his sidekick, President Biden, Joe, is saving Hamas. So what we have here is, wow, that's quite a resume for this duo, don't you think? Remember 9/11? Remember how we felt at 9/11? Would we have permitted Death to America pro-terror rallies on September 12th? Then why do we allow it now? What's different? What's changed in the last 23 years? Well, we'll save the best for last. But for starters, and this is a doozy, we now have a president who is willing to throw Israel to the wolves so that he can win the state of Michigan in the presidential election. And the Muslims are in these swing states, such as Michigan, where their votes would matter quite a bit if they swing those states. And the Jewish votes are mainly in states that are not necessarily in play, like New York, Florida, things that would probably stay the same. So we've got a president who's willing to throw Israel to the wolves so he doesn't lose Michigan. But there's much more. But this encourages the riots to continue, wouldn't you think? And just there's a strange connection here that I thought of before. Just like when Obama and Holder went into Ferguson, Missouri, and told the rioters to stay the course. And to this day, we still suffer the Ferguson effect. Now, what does that have to do with these riots? Well, Only that what the president is saying and doing is something that encourages the riots to continue because it's showing them that they're winning, that they're having an influence on him. That's not the only influence on him. We'll get to that. Now, for decades, CRT, critical race theory, has taught grade schoolers to dislike and disrespect America. They disparaged Christianity while whitewashing Islamism and jihad. For decades, university students have been taught by propagandist, many studies professors, quote unquote, to hate America, Christianity, and empathize for the theatrically victimized Islam. Remember when Hillary said that we should empathize with the terrorists? Empathy is not what they need. Our education system has taken in billions of Islamist dollars ever since 9/11. Alana Kagan was president of Harvard when they received $26 million. I previously said $38 million. Many payments I saw were in chunks of $30, $40, $50, $60 million. The Muslim students were given special treatment and privileges. But most importantly, the universities added the so-called, quote, Mid-East Studies courses taught by the radical Muslim professors who came packaged with the course. These alleged Middle East studies were virulently propaganda. These professors abused the power of teacher to student, turning our kids into terrorists. You don't want your granddaughters wearing burqas, do you? These planted professors were leaders in these obscene demonstrations, right along with the students they brainwashed over all of these years. And finally, drum roll, please. Probably the biggest difference between 9/11 and today. And the reason also that these riots have been able to continue and Biden is doing what he is doing is because the Muslim Brotherhood and or their sympathizers have infiltrated every facet of American life, including positions of influence, power, infrastructure, academia, media, law enforcement, government, local, and federal. In short, we have been infiltrated up the yang. We're so infiltrated with the Muslim Brotherhood that Uncle Joe from Scranton is getting pressured from Islamists within our government and White House. He's getting pressured from within our government and within our own White House to dump Israel in favor of Iran. Did you know that Obama removed the two words Islamic Jihad from all counter-terror and law enforcement manuals when he was in office? That's kind of like having a pizza manual without having the words sauce or cheese in them. In 2010, we, the Joe Citizen Show, and many patriots, David Gobbets, Brigitte Gabriel, scores, but many patriots and counter-terror experts tried to warn America that the Muslim Brotherhood would infiltrate all of America. And they have. They've had all this time to do so. Carte blanche. Remember the Peter King hearings? Peter King, the representative from New York? In 2010, we at the Joe Citizen Show, we wrote a formal demand for a full-blown congressional hearing on radical Islam in America. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that they complied because of our request, but we were certainly thrilled that they did. And Pete King had a hearing on radical Islam in America. Only one problem. Every Democrat, every single one, trashed the hearing. They turned it into a mockery, making it impossible for America to get anything positive out of it. Disgraceful. I'll never forgive those people for that. The same cast of characters we have today. cultural jihadist Keith Ellison. Oh, he baked the cake there. He put on a vaudeville show of crocodile tears, crying about what an affront to civil rights the hearing was. See, they didn't want to have anything to do with what the hearing was about. It was just what story they want to claim the hearing is about. That, it's an affront to civil rights. Radical Islam has nothing to do with civil rights. I can't think of any group that would have less to do with civil rights in the history of the world. They have nothing to do with civil rights other than violating everybody else's civil rights. They're the bullies, not victims. Pelosi, Schiff, Schumer, Nadler, Durbin, and the rest of the pack of America Last Democrats made sure that nothing could be accomplished that day at the Pete King hearings, and nothing was. Instead, they ridiculed, they mocked, and they called everybody Islamophobe. So, voila, here we are. We have terrorists waving at us from these campuses, laughing at all of us as if they won the war of 9/11. And unless we correct this ship, that will have been the case. Regarding the vandals, terrorists, Marxists, anarchists, whatever the hell they are, at the school demonstrations, we should have a new DEI just for you. A new DEI, that's right. Deport, expel, and imprison. These were not your 1960s flower child demonstrations. Students for Justice Palestine have been at the forefront of much of this chaos. This supposed student organization that has always really been a terror organization was a brainchild of a Hatem Bajian. Bajian has openly called for an intifada, a violent uprising, not just for Israel, but in the United States as well. He said that regarding supporters of Israel, Bajian, he, quote, "We need to harass them," close quote. Hey, Bajian, you can kiss my ass and go pound sand. In about another 8 months, you won't enjoy being the darling of the administration anymore. So how long? How long was the statue of George Washington defaced at George Washington University? Why was that statue left sitting there for that length of time without being rescued and being given back its dignity? Given us back our dignity. To those of you wearing, so-called protesters are wearing the terror garb, the terror headbands, as if you're at a big party chanting death to America while making threats to American citizens because they're Jews, you can take your stinking, filthy, blood-stained Hamas hands off of our damn statues. You keep your hands off of our American artifacts. Does anybody remember what Charlottesville was really about before some idiot drove a truck into a crowd and killed someone? It was about mobs tearing down statues in the dead of night, and nobody was stopping them. Now, Trump warned us right back then at that time that they eventually would be coming for the statue of George Washington as well. And nothing new there. He was right again. And here we are. So Christopher Wray, director of the FBI, let me ask you, after watching hundreds of these ideologically hateful pro-terrorist outbursts across universities that's supposed to be the higher thinking, is the biggest threat to America still white supremacism? Unless you mean, of course, Islamist white supremacism, then I would fully agree with you. You know, this country is going to need one heck of a deep root canal for this deep state. So, citizens everywhere, we should demand zero tolerance of terror, zero tolerance. These rallies, in my estimation, crossed that line. Now, this is all possible because of the left. Remember, they had the basket of deplorables? Well, we've got a sewage basket. That's right. We've got a basket of sewer for traitors, collaborators, and deceivers. And, oh, Hillary, is that you swimming down there? She's having a little bit of trouble swimming around. Oh, she just grabbed onto something floating around down there. Hey, there's Chucky Schmucky Schumer. He's having a tough time swimming in there. Here, let me just drop Jerry Nadler in it. You can hold on to him. He should float, wouldn't you think? Considering how often people throw the word Nazi around, it's curious about the lack of interest. The lack of interest in the real Nazis that are holed up in Rafah. The Muslim Brotherhood and Hitler made a formal alliance during World War II, and the agreement was that Hitler would kill all of the Jews in the Mideast once he was finished killing them all in Europe. The Muslims had their own panzer divisions. Universally, the word Nazi is used to depict the ultimate villain. It's almost part of like a Nazi means the ultimate villain, right? So, well, here they are. The last of the Nazis are in Rafah. We could have a 2-for-1. That's right. You remove the Hamas, and you also remove the Nazis. A pretty good 2-for-1. So not too long after September 11th, when these poor people and their bodies were flying in the air, falling onto the streets, didn't take that long for education to sell us out. Now a generation has passed, and now we have the terror wing of the Democratic Party, radical faculty, radical professors, and terrorists calling themselves students like the SJP, Students for Justice Palestine. Once again, we must demand zero tolerance of terror. No masks, no hoods, no lawfare from CARE. Spelt like that. Close down CARE, the unindicted co-conspirators in the largest terror trial ever, the Holy Land Foundation trial. They are Hamas in suits. They commended what happened on October 7th. And they are constantly recruiting. And I know, hey, they tried to recruit me. So, now what Biden wants is a one-way ceasefire, no hostages, Israeli or American. And Israel, who is the true victor in this, should put the ball down on the 1-yard line instead of going in the end zone. No, just put the ball down on the 1-yard line and surrender and wait to get slaughtered again. The United States never demands Hamas to surrender. Do you ever hear it? I don't. This is why the war continues. I mean, why would Hamas surrender? You know, as if things just could not get any nuttier. They do. Now Biden is seriously talking about bringing Palestinians, Gazans here. He must truly be out of his mind completely, because this really is too outrageous for words. This is too outrageous for words. How much does Biden have to hate American Jews, hate America? But in particular, how much does he have to hate American Jews than to threaten them with bringing in their new Nazi SS hunters to come over here, track them down, and find them? And don't think they wouldn't. What, are you kidding me? None of the neighboring countries surrounding Gaza want any of them. None of those countries, none of the Muslim Arab countries want one single Palestinian to come into their country. Why is that? Why? Because they're a national security risk. Well, hey, if they would be a national security risk in Egypt or Lebanon or Syria, what will they be here? Terrorists. That's what they would be here. And look, that's what they've mainly been trained for. They would have very little limitations here. Israel's only, 8 miles wide, and they've got a wall between them and the Jews. They'd have free pickings over here in America. The Gaza Strip could have been Miami Beach. It could have been a top resort area in the entire world. Everybody is throwing money at them. They could have turned it into a beautiful place, but instead they took the money and used it to build these elaborate tunnels, and all they have in their mind is death, killing, and hatred. America, for Palestinians or Gazans, would be like a smorgasbord for them. Remember, they're all born into a war mentality and taught to hate and want to kill Jews from the moment that they can talk and speak, literally. Oh, all right, the book. Here's a printout. It's not even single space. It's much smaller than single space. You can see how small the printing is, and it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit, ladies. And you know what this is, ladies and gentlemen? This is a list of all the terror attacks and all the people that Hamas has killed. This book here, they're all in here. Of course, it includes October 7th. Remember the Munich Olympics? Oh, that was lovely, wasn't it? What are the wonderful memories that they provide for us? This Hamas, this glorious group to march with now. These scumbags blowing up school buses. It's all in here, folks. You want to march with them? You want to put a pink vagina on your head and follow Linda Sarsour again and the rest of this Hamas bunch? Go right ahead. It'll be almost 8 months before Trump is actually inaugurated. That's a long time. Enough time for Biden to do a lot of harm, especially if he employs a scorched earth policy, which it really feels like that already. It's actually felt like that every day he's been in office. Now, I really hate to say this. But hypothetically, what if Israel were to become overrun, occupied, or destroyed? It's not something that even Trump can undo. If Biden sneaks and brings Palestinians in here, they will hunt and kill Jews right out of the phone book, especially if Israel becomes compromised. Now, after World War II, American Jews were not taught how to fight. The parents really wanted them to hit the books and succeed and be extra good at things so that they would survive. They are simply not equipped to defend themselves. So, who will protect them? Not Biden. Not the blue states. There is no longer a JDL or a Jewish Defense League, and nobody thought it was necessary to have it any longer. Rabbis, Jewish leadership, what are you doing? What are you doing to protect these kids? What will you be doing to protect them? You better start thinking of it like yesterday. Meanwhile, Israel is having to rely upon a schizophrenic partner for her very existence. Could you imagine having to rely on a schizophrenic partner for your very existence? That's exactly what's happening to Israel now. We tell Israel our support is ironclad. Slap them on the back at the Museum Holocaust speech. And then we withhold her weapons and say, no, you can't go into Rafah. The red line is you can't win the war. That's Biden's red line, is not allowing Israel to win the war. And withhold weapons that would actually reduce civilian casualties. By the way, on the subject of civilian casualties, it's quiet. It was on the news, but I don't think you'll hear it often. without any shock or surprise, the number of Palestinian civilian deaths is less than half of what we were told. But why in the world anybody would take information and believe what Hamas sends us, I have no idea why our media well, I do have an idea. Why do we even ask? This situation we have with Israel and Hamas. We tell Israel we'll give her intelligence, which we should have given her, as long as she doesn't use it by going into Rafah. And that's really astonishing to think that we've been sitting on intelligence and not giving it right to them. And that we should both be working together to use that intelligence, special ops or whatever, to get those hostages. But we just use it to threaten our most loyal ally. So I guess you could say we withheld ammo and info. We've withheld both ammo and info. You know, if the partner was a boy or a girlfriend, you'd have to just simply get up and say, you know, I'm sorry, but goodbye. Unfortunately, Israel does not have that luxury. Now, we must win this election by a freaking landslide and send the message, a big-time message of a mandate that we are mandating for a return to Judeo-Christian values. Now, that will include everybody. The gay community should never, ever feel excluded from the Trump party. They never have been, and they never will. We're open to all peoples. Everyone is welcome to join us. Everyone that wants to come here, that loves America, that loves Americans, hey, jump in the pool with us. We would love it. Just don't come here to try to change us. Multiculturalism does not work. The melting pot works. America works. You know, no parent ever wants to live to see their child die, and no patriot ever wants to live to see America or her best ally, Israel, die. We can never, ever allow that to happen. This is the Joe Citizen Show. I'm Roger Homefield. Thanks for being with us.
Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. See you in November at the polls where we are gonna have our say. Better see you in November. It's our chance to throw these fools away. Counting the days till we're rid of you. Counting the hours and the minutes too. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. Bye-bye, so long.